following is a presentation of the Automotive Retailers Association of British Columbia.
Okay, is there any questions at this point that you would like to raise? Yes, sir.
Bill C-273, Brian Massey's bill, wanted to sort of pursue a legislative answer to this. So if you could tell me why that's not a good idea, and what's going to happen now that the committee's decided to study it, where does it go forward?
Well, I think the big, from our perspective, the big piece is that technology of the automobile is changing a lot faster than legislation ever will. And so as the vehicles and the technology changes, we can adapt amongst the three of us, we can adapt the agreement, down the road so that we can address those technology changes.
In terms of the status of the bill, of course, it's before the committee of industry, parliamentary committee. It is before Parliament. I guess from the perspective as the Conservative caucus, the bill now becomes redundant and unnecessary. We feel that this is the ideal solution. It does not require government legislation or Parliament's legislation. There is now 100% of the aftermarket can be covered, but for those who wish to join with the agreement, they have the ability to do so. So from that perspective, 273 from the Conservative caucus's point of view now becomes unnecessary.
Can you tell me how long it'll take before shops like this will be able to access the kind of software they need?
Yeah, so the end date is May 1st, rather, 2010, but perhaps my partners here can tell us what the next step would be.
To answer that question, most of the car companies make service information available today, but basically by May the 1st, 2010, all the car companies are committed to making the service information available.
Mr. Glenn, can I just go back to the 273? Sure. And one of the other speakers here was talking about naysayers, and there are a lot of naysayers. I mean, there's the AIA, there's the Retail Council of Canada, there's CAA, and they represent a lot of businesses in Canada. I mean, I was just going through the list of the AIA, Canadian Tire, Napa Auto Parts, it goes on and on. You guys currently have a bill for spam where you don't trust businesses to set the rules for spam. You want to set it yourself and you have a legislative backstop. But in this case, what's the difference? You want businesses to set the rules here and have no legislative backstop, unlike the U.S. Why is it good for spam but not good for cars that we
Let me just say a couple things. First of all, with respect to the AIA, they were at the table at one point. They decided to vacate that position. That's their decision. They're always welcome to come back to the table. I'm sure if they decide that this is a worthy process for their membership, they can do that. But their membership is nonetheless, regardless of their industry association position, those that they represent are perfectly able and willing and invited to participate in this voluntary agreement, and I would think it would be in their pecuniary and economic interest to do so. So that I think solves that issue. Look, I'm not here to compare apples with oranges. All I can tell you is in this particular case, where you have the vehicle manufacturers voluntarily offering their source code and their other information, their training that hitherto had only been offered to their own service garages. That this is a step in the right direction. It shows that the industry is working together with the aftermarket garages, such as the one in which we find ourselves. It doesn't require more debate in the House of Commons. Doesn't require a whole legislative overlay when we've got the industry doing what consumers want them to do. So in this case, because these are good actors that are acting responsibly, we should allow the voluntary agreement to take hold. In the anti-spam case, what you're dealing with is bad actors, criminals who are using the internet for their own nefarious piracy goals. So I don't think you can compare that to the
Is Mr. Levesque here to be able to speak to whether this offers his garage and his customers what's needed, this deal you've announced today?
Roger, there's a question for you. Welcome to my world, Roger. Sometimes it comes right out of the blue. Yeah. Bienvenue.
So the question is, does this agreement offer a local shop like yourself what you need to be able to provide the service your customers require?
Not on a regular basis, because we're going to have to use this regularly. But on some occasions, we have to bring cars to different dealerships to get the computer reprogrammed or something like that, after doing some specific repairs.
So this will solve those problems for you.
Yeah, it could, because we're equipped to do all of what we have to do. But we didn't have access to what we need.
Does this mean that the specialty tool that BMW previously refused to sell you, let's say to change your fan clutch, they'll now sell it to you? Will you now have access to these parts that they previously refused to sell you?
More likely, yes.
Okay.
Sounds like you're speaking from personal experience. Secret Beaver driver?
Actually, I had 2 Mercedes and I had a BMW, and I was left.
I need to give you my card.
I'd probably make the dealership about $3,000 a year to replace some parts, but
Not that you're
these tools. Can I
What this agreement does is it allows anybody in the aftermarket access to anything that can be bought at the dealership level in the way of tools or information.
Are there any price protections in place to make sure that the small shops can afford to buy the service?
Yes, we have a whole page in the agreement around that issue.
And just on enforcement, Mr. Clement, what's the enforcement if there's a dispute in this case? How does that work?
Yeah, I think there is a dispute resolution mechanism.
Maybe if I could, the agreement does contain provision for a task force to be the oversight mechanism for the agreement. And we've actually set up a spot on that task force for a representative from the government, perhaps from the minister's own department, to sit on that task force and monitor the agreement as it moves forward. So there is a mechanism built in to ensure that there is that capability.
And I'm assuming it includes GM and Chrysler then? They're in this deal. And what about Tata and Fiat and all four manufacturers?
The minister in his package has letters from all manufacturers, distributors, all endorsing the agreement that the 3 associations have signed.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Justin,
Thank you.
Well done.